Welcome back, guys. Today I'll be going over the onboarding flow. It's going to be a responsive demonstration as well as showing the onboarding process. Here I'm actually going to go further into the research side of things as well. So here's a little overview of what we'll be doing. The research of documentation, the onboarding flow, low fidelity wireframe, high fidelity prototype, and then the developer handoff. Okay, so I actually did half of this project on Miro to demonstrate that you can use multiple tools to get the work done, and sometimes certain platforms are better used for certain things than others. So in this case, I like using Miro for documentation, creating flows and wireframes. However, you can do all this stuff on Figma as well. Figma has this section called FigJam where you can make effective documentation and flows as well. So I strongly recommend you try um, multiple options and see what fits best for your style of work. Okay, so we'll start from the beginning. I use Kaban to organize my um, workflow. So Miro has this feature that you can upload Kaban onto the worksheet. So I basically broke it down to writing the onboarding document, design onboarding flow, create the wireframe, high fidelity prototype, responsive design, handoff, and then uploading it. So you can actually drag these and move it to wherever you see fit, depending on the state of the uh, workflow. So let's begin with onboarding documentation. I'm going to go over these pretty quickly because I want to focus mostly on the design spot. So for onboarding documentation, well, and by the way, I'll be linking all this stuff onto the description below. So if you want to look into detail about how I did everything, you're more than welcome to do so there. So anyways, let's continue. Onboarding documentation. I began with the objective. So I wrote a brief objective here. I wrote down these scopes and limitations, split them into two different sticky notes here to see what I'm trying to do and what I'm capable of doing within the time frame I'm given. The onboarding flow breakdown. So here we pretty much go into detail of like the different screens that we'll likely be using. So I gave a description of each one of these. Keep in mind that a lot of times during the design process, sometimes you have to make a lot of adjustments and even create entire pages based on what was originally intended. So that's pretty common when you're working in a team. You end up making X amount of pages, and then your boss tells you you have to add another one or you scrap one. So this happens pretty often. So just because you're making a documentation doesn't mean you have to follow it, down to the very last corner. Okay, so that being said, moving forward, we have to design and prototype in detail. So this pretty much breaks down general components uh, and whatnot that I'll be using through this process. So interaction and prototype details, I put it into a table. So I pretty much put the interaction description and what technique it follows, responsive strategy, accessibility considerations, such as color contrast, compliance, keyboard navigation, and then handoff documentation. So using Fig Dev Mode, which is pretty common for developers to use, pretty much provides all the CSS values and spacing and such for them to view. But you also want to include annotations and write down as much as you can for them, and also prototype as much as you can so they can physically see what's going on. Okay, so here I go more into detail about the handoff and documentation. So just some best practices, strategies, um, animations. Although I didn't use very many animations because you don't want to overdo it. It's not the most accessible thing to make your entire project very animated and motion designed. So you want to just keep it very simple and straight to the point. Obviously, responsiveness and breakpoints. Utilize this a lot during the project, and I'll go more into details about that. And then the final handoff package. Okay, so going to the onboarding flow. So pretty simple. We start at the start screen. As soon as you click the button, you go into the welcome screen where you can sign up and log in. You can, there's an option of continuous guest, but that's very optional. Now all sites have that. Let's say if we do click login, it takes us to the login screen where we can enter the email and password. And if you forget, it gives you an error state. Um, and if the passwords, if you forget the password, it sends you to the password reset flow. But if you input it incorrectly, it sends you to the error state. And if you are successful, it continues on to the walkthrough. Okay, now let's say you don't have an account. You just hit sign up. It takes you to the account creation screen right here, where you can enter your name, email, password, and then once you complete all those fields, you're sent to the profile setup page where you can customize your profile. Now after that, you have the you can continue to the walkthrough where it takes you to pretty much the onboarding process, which is the center of the project here that I'll be showcasing. So the onboarding pretty much is a step-by-step tutorial using pops-up tooltips, carousels, or whatever necessary depending on the feature that you're using. So these are just a couple examples of what a walkthrough may include, but most of the time they have some kind of progression indicator. So it'll indicate where and what step you're in during the walkthrough. And it will just continue through a loop until you're done. So this is what that here indicates. And once you complete it, or if you skip it, you are done with the onboard. It takes you to the end screen, and you go to the main dashboard after that. And in case I didn't show you already, here's the legend. So green is start point, red is end point, the square is the screen, the yellow triangles is the decision points, the diamonds. The red diamond is the error state, and then the arrows is the navigation path. So I hope that clears up any misunderstandings looking at this. Again, I'm going to provide the link of these files down below in the description. So if you want to look more further into detail on this sort of section, feel free to do so. And then lastly is the wireframe. So this is the last part I did on Miro. So the wireframe is pretty simple. I have the opening desktop, welcome screen, login, the profile setup, and then the walkthrough. Again, these are just rough designs. It doesn't have to look exactly like this once you're done. So it just kind of gives you an idea of what components are going to be in the general layout of the structure. So it's not going to be exactly like this when you're doing your final product. And sometimes you might include or remove a screen or two. All right, now let's go ahead and go to the design. So we'll begin with the assets. So I didn't do many assets here because I was just trying to knock this out really quickly, but we just have fields here, text, buttons, navigations, accordions, and whatnot. And then most importantly, throughout this project, I actually utilized a framework of a design system that I created called Framework Design System. So I shown it's a public library, so feel free to check it out. I'll also include that link in the description. So here you have access to various different components and most importantly, the local library, the local variables. So here I pretty much borrowed a lot of these variables I created through this design system and utilized them through my project, making this 1,000 times faster and easier for a developer to develop. So strongly recommend you have a list of local variables and import it or some kind of design system so that the developer has an easier time and also so that you can make your workflow a lot more faster. All right, let's go back to now the high fidelity prototype. All right, so we'll start with the actual designs themselves. I'll be walking through the video here. Okay, so the name and application is called Launchpad. So it's just a general name that I came up with. So don't mind too much about the what the app does, because the whole point here is to demonstrate the onboarding flow. Okay, so we have a little highlight here to indicate that you can click that. So once you get to the login page, or this is the welcome page, so it introduces itself, and then you have the option to log in or sign up. And then here you also have the option to change your language in case you don't speak English. So let's go ahead and do login. And then you have the email, password, login option, or you can continue with Facebook, Google, and Apple. Or if you don't have an account, you could just hit, if you don't have an account, you could just hit sign up here. So it gives you the option to go back. But if you enter, we're going to show you an interaction with the input or the password here. So if you click this, it reveals the password name. So you can see that. And then one more time, just to show you the state, this is what the error state looks like. So it has a red highlight and then an icon to symbolize the state of the password. All right, so let's go back and hit sign up to show you how that looks like. So this is the sign up screen. We have the logo here with the icon, name, password, email, and then here we have the helper text below to give you the requirements of this password. So minimum 8 characters, minimum 1 character, uppercase and lowercase letter, minimum 1 letter, 0 to 9, and then a special character. And then here, when you focus, here indicates that's been successful. You have the password, and then this is essentially you clicking visibility. But in case you end up creating a password and one of them is incorrect, it will indicate here that you did not include a special character. So there's that, and this takes you back to the login. So if you have an account already, just click that and it'll take you back to the login page that we were just on. All right, but we're not going to do that. We're going to go ahead and click register. So this is the account page, or also known as the profile setup based on the name of our wireframe. So here we have the sidebar, has all these different options you can go through. And then this is the main content to the right. So here you have the option to change your profile. You can change the name or the role or your profile picture by clicking this icon here. Personal information, so you have your username, date of birth, email, and then phone number. There's a random number, so don't call it, please. I just typed in some random numbers. As you can see, 987-1234. Anyway, so you can modify that information there, and then you also can update your account. So you can change the password and then your email. Okay, and also you have the option to forget your password too if you end up forgetting from here as well, by any chance. Again, you also have the option to change between light mode and dark mode. So clicking that, boom, takes you to dark mode. And then click this, takes you right back to light mode. So, and I'll show you how that looks like on the wireframe section, the other screen. So let's continue. So here we can click explore. So that'll take you to the onboarding section. So this is the onboarding. So here we have the title. We have the indicating the progress indicator. So right now we're in first step amongst 2 and 3 and 4. This is just an introduction section, so it'll tell you pretty much what's going on, what you'll go through and such, and then you'll just progress as you go. And then once you get to the final one, it'll give you a confirmation. Now let's go back and show you how that looks like in dark mode. Oh, hold on, let me. Sorry, I don't think I linked that, so let me just show you from here. There you go. So this is the dark mode version of the onboarding section. Now going back, let me show you basically what I meant as responsiveness and also about the changing this to light mode and dark mode. So this is the benefits of using local variables. So if you look at to my right here, you have this panel here called mapped. So that was one of the variable collections that I used, and also responsive. So this basically lets you change between tablet, mobile, and desktop. It also changes the font size and component sizes depending on the metrics you used for those settings. And then here, light mode and dark mode, you just simply click, boom, it turns into light mode and dark mode. So very easy and very simple. Now to show you what I meant is in the responsiveness, if you grab the screen, there's a breakpoint here, which means that it will not go smaller than 1000 or 1024, and then stretching it maximum is 1536. So that's pretty much the breakpoints for the desktop screen. I'm using Tailwind as the breakpoint number, so you can always adjust it right here. So this indicator allows you to adjust the maximum minimum right there. I also did the same with the components, so I didn't want the components to get too big. So here there's a maximum of 400. So that means these components will get smaller, but they won't get bigger. All right, now let's move on to tablet. All right, I'm gonna go through these quickly because it's the same exact thing, but in a tablet perspective. So we have the welcome, the onboarding, the opening screen. This is the welcome page, login. We'll go to sign up here, sign up, same thing, and then register. This is the profile setup page. So since we can't put a sidebar inside a tablet because it takes up a lot of space, I created this menu icon where you click that and it pretty much opens this dynamic menu here, which you can click and interact with. So it takes you to wherever you need to go. So here it took me to the onboarding section, and then I can just go back to accounts. Same thing with dark mode. Click this, and you can just rotate between. All right, now let's go back to mobile. I have the flow listed right here, so you can just go straight there. And then mobile is the same thing, except in a smaller screen now. So this is the welcome page. This is the login. You can log in between now it's replaced with icons instead of the words. And then we'll do sign up. This is a sign up screen. And then we'll register. And here it's a little bit more interesting. So this is basically what it means to make it mobile accessible. You're changing a lot of the layouts to meet the requirements for a mobile platform. So I replaced a lot of the content with accordions to allow you to efficiently scroll through the page without overwhelming the user with too much information on a single layout. So you're able to see what you need to see depending on, and it kind of gives it a hierarchy. So if you're trying to look at the profile, you just click that and it opens that for you. And then you can toggle between light mode and dark mode. And here we have the menu. So we can't really use a dynamic menu or the sidebar on a mobile screen since it's too small. So instead, it pretty much takes up the entire screen. But you can use it in a unique way and navigate it through in a unique way. Here I use a push animation. So you can navigate to the menu like that. Click explore. Also, the progression indicator using the dots sometimes depletes a lot of the information. I could have just made the dots only, but then I would have to include all that text, and that would have consumed a lot of space. So instead, I use a progress bar where I can still have the header of the page and then the rate of completion right there. So that's what I did with that. All right, so that completes the prototype. Now let's go back to our screens, and I'm gonna go quickly to show you what the responsiveness looks like. So click on this one here, and then I don't think I made that one responsive. Oh no, it is responsive. Let me just move it out the way. So for the tablet, it's already at minimum, 768. So that means that's the smallest a tablet would get, but you can increase it to 1023. So this would be essentially the responsiveness of a tablet screen. And then I'll show you how it looks like on this one here. So here, because of the information, the way it's displayed, I pretty much set a breakpoint with the content itself. So the content is pretty much fixed at this size, 720. It's not going to get any bigger because to me, I feel like that's, it's going to look weird, or the information is going to get too long and it's just not going to look right. So to me, this is perfect. But you always want to double check with the user or the stakeholders and get their requirements because this is just an opinion of mine. However, sometimes people don't share the same opinion and you just make those adjustments based on what they request. And let me just show you the breakpoint for this too. So in these cases, because we're using a 1/3, 2/3 split, this here gets kind of cut off. So for the user to check the other side, they have to scroll sideways. But that's kind of the sacrifices you make having this type of layout for dashboards. Okay, and then mobile. Same thing here. So I like this size set up so it doesn't get any bigger than that. Or no, it was set to 500, I believe. Yep, minimum 500. So it won't get any bigger than 500. There's a maximum phone size, 767. And that's usually for a landscape. Most phones don't ever get that big. So usually if your phone rotates and it has a landscape view, this is what it'll look like. But you can get smaller. See, however, most phones won't get this small. I believe the smallest is about this size, 320. So you'll never get a phone smaller than that. But even then, these are the really outdated ones. So majority of the time, you're going to fall between like 370 to 400, around there. Okay, and then we'll go lastly, the documentation. So I have general documentation here. Now, before I continue, I only did the documentation for the desktop because this is a lot of work to do for something that we're not actually coding. And also, it pretty much gets to the point And on top of that, as far as the way I do documentation, I like to create video demonstrations like the one I'm doing right now. So I actually can showcase what I'm talking about visually instead of just putting into words. Because sometimes a picture is 1,000 words and a video is 1,000 pictures. So you want to just try to convey your message in as much as efficiently as possible, but also you want to include the documentation here too, just in case, because every developer is different and sometimes they would prefer this. Okay, so I have a general documentation. So this is just the general documentation of the entire project. The component library was imported from Framework Design System, which is what I showed you earlier. The design system access, it includes the local variables and styles accessed from the Framework Design System, as I showed you before. And then prototype interactions. To preview prototype interactions, review the flows nested in the document. So here I have a link to all the prototypes. So you can just, you as a developer can click this and then just go straight to the prototype and see exactly how to, click stuff and where it goes. And then accessibility compliance. Okay, color contrast, all frames have been tested using the A11Y color contrast tool, which is a plugin you could download. It's all WCAG compliant, so meaning the minimum AA color contrast, accessible interactions, which includes a text and color variant, keyboard navigation, so all interactive elements are accessible via keyboard with logical tab order, focus indicator to show focus states, form accessibility, so includes labels, error message, helper text, touch target size, which is underrepresented in my opinion from a lot of applications I've seen. But you want a minimum of 44 by 44 because if you're using your finger to touch something, especially on a mobile application, sometimes these buttons are too close together. And I don't know if you ever used an app where that's the case. It happens to me all the time, but that's because they're not following this rule. Skip navigation, so allow content to be skipped for keyboard navigation, and then consistent heading and structure, and using proper use of semantic HTML for enhanced readability and navigation. All right, so I'll go over this pretty quickly, but it's for the most part pretty straightforward. So here in this case, this page is the 1023 by 1536 layout, and I linked the grid system that I've created on the design system. So further documentation will be linked from this point here. It is responsive as well, to note for the developer. The title displays welcome to Launchpad using H1 heading style. The main content is an introductory message of a clear hierarchy. And then let's get started is a primary button. And then let's get started is also fixed at 400 pixels width and must maintain a minimum of 44 pixels height. Accessibility, so it's pretty much has the hover variant. Also an indicator, meets the WCAG AA contrast. I think it's actually a AAA, so that's like the highest level. And then interactive elements on the page are fully navigatable. Moving on to welcome screen. The screen content is auto-centered in the right column, so this here is in the center of this column here. The screen also presents a welcome introduction. Follows the same page layout as the previous one. The supportive imagery fills 50% of the full width, so this here is 50% of the width. So these two pretty much take the same amount of space. Primary action is The primary call to action is login, also responsive and a maximum of 400 pixels width. So it gets smaller, but it'll never get bigger than 400. Same thing with the secondary, which is sign up. Layout employs clear typography, and then the drop-down field is labeled and reads in description field. So here you have the label, language, and then the description field is English. And then same accessibility, AA standards, interactive components, focus indicators, and then the button being 44 pixels, etc. The login screen, same thing here, centered content on the right column, responsive for 400 pixels, same thing, 1023 pixels by 1536 for the layout, imagery, label. So this is pretty much the same thing, except here we have the forget password link. It's positioned right below the auto recovery. So here we have some kind of help indicator for the user. And then here we also have the alternative login options. Facebook, Google, and Apple are clearly presented here. So here we also have the error messaging designed to concise and meet the AA color standards. That's for the password. And then we alternative login options include ARIA labels, which essentially means that it allows for a bypass of features. So a user can just click this and it'll go straight to login rather than clicking all this stuff. So it's more like keyboard accessibility. And moving to account creation here, so the main difference is the password. We have the inline text password fields, specialties with the criteria, and then here the profile setup. So here we pretty much use the sidebar layout. So 1/3 sidebar, 2/3 content. The content maintains a fixed main content area of a horizontal scroll. So this is fixed here of a horizontal scroll. And you could always change it to responsive. However, Figma is limited to that. So if you want to do a responsive design, you have to mention it in the document. So that's something to keep in mind. The screen layout highlights personal details with light theme. So we can switch between light and dark mode. And this is pretty much the same as the others. Here, same thing, 1/3 by 2/3 layout with the sidebar. And the screen guide users through a key application features via sequence, slides, or steps, in this case steps, as you can see here. And each walkthrough step is designated by visual distinct engaging. So here it's obviously indicating that it's the welcome screen. So it's pretty self-explanatory. And then you also have the labels here: welcome, key sections, personalization, and getting started. Okay, so that should be the end of the documentation, the handoff documentation. So, um, if you guys have any other questions, please let me know. Again, this is the onboarding flow, so I plan on making a couple more of these. If you prefer these, or if you prefer the prototype demonstrations, do please let me know. I'm gonna try to make as much variation and of different types of things as possible. And if you also want me to make a video of my design system, I can go into detail about that too. Like I said, everything's going to be in the description down below, so feel free to check it out and let me know if you have any suggestions. And thanks for your time. Please like and subscribe to the video and share it. And you guys have a great day.